and good evening. Welcome all to this Confluence for Beginners training, and nothing quite like starting the morning with your computer deciding to reboot because it had to update. But I'm glad we're all here. We're here to talk about, again, Confluence and just some basic concepts and ideas. I'll share why I put this kind of training together, but I think it'll make a lot of sense for folks as you start to hear it, and you maybe have very similar stories. Welcome, everyone. We got Saeed, Beth, Tarsha, and Renee. They've already found the chat, and I'll talk more about the chat, but that's going to be an important part of the training. And today, you'll see me do things like put polls in here. And I'll quickly put one in there just so you start to get used to that function. I've got one more thing I need to get ready and set up, but then we're going to jump on in. If you could in the chat, just give me a quick thumbs up or let me know that you can hear me, though. I'm constantly paranoid that something will go sideways. And you'll just see me talking to myself the entire training. So while I grab one thing, I will also suggest if you have Confluence available, if you have a version or a copy of it, have it open in a different window if you can, so you can go back and forth and kind of see this and follow along as we do this together. So that's going to be another great way to help kind of get these skills into your body and into your brain, is just by practicing them side by side as we work through this live. Now, this will include both slides and live information. So I will have some slides to orient us. And these slides are going to be important because there's going to be concepts and ideas and other things that you might be unfamiliar with, especially if you haven't used Confluence before. And that's completely okay. There's a lot of terms, a lot of things that are specific to Confluence that don't exist in other systems. And so we're going to take some time and make sure we understand those. And then we're going to jump on in to Confluence itself. And I'll show you what it looks like in a hands-on view. Now, please bring questions. Please don't be afraid to jump on in and say, hey, Rob, can you back up? Hey, Rob, I don't understand these specific topics. Or ask a more in-depth question specific to yourself. Don't share sensitive information, of course, or anything that shouldn't be disclosed. But please ask those questions. This is the best way to learn. Raise your hand and say, hey, I need help with this. And I think I have finally caught up, and we are almost ready to switch to the slides. All right, so we're going to get started, folks. First way of introduction, my name is Rob. I've had a career in IT since my entire career, since the early 2000s. And I've been using Confluence since about 2013. All of my training using Confluence was someone just pointing at a screen and saying, that's our knowledge base. And that was the training. They didn't show me how to make any content. They didn't show me or explain any terms. They just pointed at the screen and they walked off. And this made it hard to use the system. I didn't know anything. And I think that's a very common approach for folks. We're given this tool in our job, and we're really excited to get started at a company, and we're very good at finance or marketing or sales or whatever. And they don't tell us how to use the tools that we're expected to use. And that's why I do these trainings, to help folks exactly like yourselves. Since that first day when I had no training, I've earned multiple Atlassian certifications. I'm what's called an Atlassian champion. I've been using it for a while. So I've built up a lot of knowledge. That said, I don't know everything. And that's why I like doing these trainings, because I get to learn too. Many of you have found the chat. Please use that to communicate. I mentioned this a couple of times, but this is going to be where you can ask questions, but also interact with other people. So please make sure if you see someone ask a question and you want to follow up on it, or if you can help answer it, just jump on in. There's also a great community I've got in this chat and also in something called Discord. So I've got about 200 folks in there who share information and just build a sense of community around talking about Atlassian products. So this chat is the best way to do that. Also, I do this professionally, so I do training. So please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. This will make sure you get updates. I do regular videos. And please like the stream. That is the simplest way you can help support what I do and make it easier for me to keep doing it. But liking the stream also makes it easier for other people to find this. So please hit the like button when you like this, and I'll remind you as we go. And there are other ways you can help support me that I'll mention throughout the training. And also share this. I guarantee you someone you work with or someone you know is in the same boat and doesn't know anything about Confluence, which is totally okay. So, a quick agenda. I can't get to everything there is in Confluence, I just don't have enough time in an hour or even in probably a day. So we'll focus on some basic concepts. We're going to start out with just what is Confluence. And then we'll talk about different aspects of Confluence that you will find useful or use regularly. Donna, welcome. We'll talk about some more conceptual things like spaces and access, but then we'll talk about actual features that you will be using regularly. Now, I'll do my best to stick to this agenda, but depending on how things go, we may or may not get to everything. But I will make sure you walk away from this with a good foundation, a good starting point. So when you go back to your job or when you start using Confluence again, you can feel some confidence in knowing where to go and what to do and what's going on. These concepts are also important because when you go look up information later, if you go into Google, you'll know what term to type in to get help. Or if you're talking to a coworker, you'll be able to describe what you're looking at so they can help you out and understand what you mean. I kind of already asked this, but we've got about 60% of us have used Confluence before. And I'm going to drop another poll in with this question, just how long have you used Confluence if you've used it? And this, again, some of us have been using it for over a decade. Some of us maybe are just starting. And some of us maybe haven't ever used it at all. And I'll just put some options. If you're more or less or somewhere in the middle, please feel free to correct me in the chat. So the first thing to understand is what even is Confluence. Corey, welcome. Good to see you. Confluence, when I first started using it, people called it a knowledge base. And that to me made a lot of sense because I was used to knowledge bases. The thing for me with a knowledge base, though, is they feel like they are old and stodgy and not a place you go for active work. In my mind, a knowledge base... Oh, Beth, I saw that. In my mind, a knowledge base is somewhere you go to find something and then you leave. And there's nothing wrong with that. Knowledge bases are incredibly important because there's a lot of information we all need to track and maintain and take care of. Now, Atlassian, the company that makes Confluence, is starting to call it more of a collaboration platform. And so you'll see more of these features that they are releasing relate more to how do teams collaborate and work together, regardless of where they are. However, that's not the only way it can be used. It could be used for customer documentation. So, for example, your company may sell a product and you have a very big how-to manual or some other piece of information you need to share with customers so they can actually use the tool properly. So Confluence can help you do that. It could be widely available and open. You can allow anyone on the internet to see your version of Confluence, or it could be very restricted. Maybe only a certain team in your company should use it. There's no real wrong way to use it, though. Keep that in mind. Atlassian is making it a collaboration tool, but there are many ways the tool can be used, and the way your organization chooses to use it might differ. So just be open to different possibilities. Spaces is another concept we need to understand. Spaces are just a way to organize stuff in Confluence. If we think of Confluence like a library, spaces are the rooms within the library that you put things. They can be organized by project. For every project you work on, you may have a space. They might be organized by team. Every team in your organization may have one, or almost any other grouping. Similar to how Confluence is used, how your organization uses spaces will differ, and it can depend on some kind of content strategy or some kind of other overarching idea on how to manage information. So when you're exploring Confluence, just be open to the fact that where content lives can impact it because there are settings in the space, but also how the spaces are organized will differ just based on need. Now, I'll mainly talk about two types of content. And I've mentioned content a lot. This is what most people think of when they think of Confluence. It's the stuff in it. Again, if it's a library, it's the books and the magazines and the technology you can use in the library. Every piece of content has to live in a space and can only live in one space. And two pieces of content you'll hear me talk about a lot today are pages and blogs. Pages are the stereotypical piece of content. It looks like a Word doc or an email or a blank sheet of paper that you put information on. And pages can have images, they can have attachments, they can have things called macros that give you little functionality and make it do different things. But pages are kind of the core of Confluence. Now, there are some things There's also a thing called a blog. I should probably explain that first. Blogs are less used than pages in my experience, but they have a slightly different purpose. They're more for a point in time piece of information. For example, I write weekly product updates. I make that a blog because that update is accurate on the 5th of the month. And then next week I'll do another one and another one and another one. Now, blogs are put in a different spot, so they show up in a different area that I'll talk about in a minute, but they're good for point in time information. So the thing to remember here is the kind of content you select might be driven by what you need it to do. If I have something that will always be useful, or maybe I'll update as we go, I'll probably build a page. But if we have something that, hey, I'm going to deploy this or publish it, and then it will never really need to change or be updated, I'll make that a blog. There are some other big differences, though. There's this thing called the content hierarchy, or page tree, that we'll talk about and we'll see. And this is just a visual organization of content. Pages show up in that hierarchy. Blogs show up somewhere else. So that's just a difference between these things. Okay, I'm moving through these concepts a little bit quickly, folks, so please let me know if you want me to slow down or if you want me to back up. I want to make sure we have a lot of time for, the hands-on stuff and exploring questions and answers. And it looks like out of our informal poll, exactly half of us have used it from 0 to 3 years, which is about what I expected and was kind of hoping, honestly. Corey is asking, blogs can be used to track historical changes. I use them more as a record of what happened at a point in time. Every piece of content or pages will have some kind of version history, version control on them. And so if you mean changes over time, that could be one way to look at it. For blogs, though, again, it's any regular event. It's something that happens and will not happen again. A team outing, welcome to a new team member, those kind of things. Versus a policy or project documentation or a retrospective that I might make a page. For those of you who have used Confluence, have you used templates? And templates are an important concept, and in the context of this training, I'm talking about page templates. When we go to make content in Confluence, it can be hard because you'll just have a blank page. There's this term writer's block, where you're starting a project, you're starting to write something, and you don't know where to begin. And this can be challenging, especially for folks who don't use Confluence a lot or don't do a lot of writing. So Confluence has these things called templates. They are pre-formatted pages. They have areas to write things on, and they have, maybe images already in there. And when you first load in Confluence, you'll have 150 or so of them, 140, some number, because Atlassian wants you to be successful, and they start you with a whole bunch. Now, these can be incredibly useful. There are some I use daily, one called Meeting Notes. You can see it right here. I've got a how-to article, but there's a lot of other templates. And the idea is to make it easier for us to make things, but also make it easier for folks to consume things. If I'm always familiar with looking at a how-to page and it's got the same structure, then it makes it very easy for me to engage with the next how-to page. One thing to know about templates, like many things in Confluence, they are managed by a person called a space admin. The space administrator controls the space. They control things like access and templates and settings. So if you can't find a template you're used to or you want to make a new one, you need to find the space admin, which could be your team lead, or it could be something like an IT ticket. There are many ways to find templates. They show up in the UI menu, which we'll see, of course, when we go live. But also when you go to create a page, it will queue up a menu of them that you can search through and dig through. So we won't look at every template. Again, there's 140 plus of them out of the box. But I'll make sure you know how to search and find them because they're a great inspiration and a great starting point. For example, you might pull up a policy template and not use the whole thing, but it gets you 80% of the way there. That speeds up your ability to make content and create information and share it with your team. Now, I manage that space admins can manage templates, or mentioned. Now, again, this is a special permission called a space admin, but they can make new templates. So the important takeaway for the brand new folks, if you're constantly making a page that has the same structure, the same headings, the same tables in the same places, or if you find yourself copying and pasting another page, which is a very common thing people do, talk to your space admin about making a template. That template will live just in that space, so it doesn't clutter up other places, but it can make your life a lot easier. So when you find yourself opening a page and copying the whole thing and deleting all the content, or if you find yourself making a page just called template, go find your space admin and they can help you out by making a template that you can more easily use. Even better, that template is usable by other people. So the stuff you create or your admin helps you make, other people will benefit from. And it looks like most of us have not used templates, so I'm really glad I spoke a little bit about them. When we get live, we will see what templates look like. All right, folks, quick coffee break for Rob. And just a quick reminder, if you like this, hit the like button. I've got about 25 folks and 4 likes. So if you're finding this useful or interesting in any way, please just push like. And that's the easiest way to help support me. I also, excuse me, I also have a full-length Confluence course that I'll drop a link to. If you're interested in more learning and this is paid, this is 4.5 hours of pretty much everything you as a beginner need to know on how to be successful with Confluence. I have other courses, but this one is focused for beginners, and it covers all of this and a lot more. So that was templates. Next, we're going to dig into access in Confluence, and I'm talking about this in a beginner's training because for me, it was one of the most confusing aspects of Confluence because in some places I could or couldn't do something. And I'm just putting another poll up a little bit. Just to give us an idea. Now, again, this for me was the most frustrating bit because there were some instances where I could access a piece of content one day and then I couldn't the other. Or a teammate next to me could open up a thing and I didn't even know it existed. Or I sent someone a link to a page and they couldn't open it. And this concept was frustrating because I didn't know how to approach it. So the thing to understand about, Tarsha, the link's right above your message. And it's also this QR code right under me. This QR code should take you to the course. Now, to think about access, we need to consider it's layered. The first layer is the instance or the copy of Confluence. So if you don't have a license to use a particular instance, you can't see anything. For example, I cannot log into your company's Confluence because I don't have a license, and you can't log into mine. There are some exceptions. There is a way to have guest access and anonymous access. I won't talk about those too much here, but just be aware that in most cases, if you don't have access, typically by a license, you can't get in. However, if you work at a company, you'll tend to have that license. The next frustrating thing is the space. That way of organizing content has access. So if you don't have access to view a space, you can't see anything in it, regardless of other stuff. This to me was frustrating because my teammate could see something and I couldn't. And I just didn't have access to the space. If you don't have access at the space, you have to find a space admin to help you out because they can add you to those lists or help figure out what's going on. So if you can't see anything in a space, it's at that level. The third level is called a restriction. I call it content or page level access. And this can prevent editing or viewing a piece of content. For example, you may have a human resources space that everyone can see. It's useful information. However, you don't want anyone editing the policies. So I can view the policies, but I can't edit them. In other cases, you may have a page only a few people should see or edit. So this was the most frustrating one because I would send Tarsha a link. Tarsha would open it and it would say, I'm sorry, this doesn't exist. Now, there are global permissions, and this is something else to just be aware of. The important one here is creating spaces. Most people won't be able to do this. These, however, apply to all of Confluence. So when you first join Confluence, or if you end up getting a new space to work in, there will be some defaults that will be applied. The other thing I've mentioned is this anonymous access and public links. For the purposes of this training as beginners, just know that it is possible to expose your Confluence content to the entire internet. This can be good. Again, maybe you have a how-to documentation portal for your customers or release notes for your product that you're building. You want to share those. You want people to see them. However, you don't want them to see your HR documentation or your personal notes, those kind of things. So keep in mind there are global permissions beyond what we as everyday users see that can impact our ability to work in Confluence. And then I mentioned these space permissions. As a user, just understand they exist. What you're seeing is what a space admin sees and controls. This can be frustrating for the space admin as well. So whenever I didn't have access, I would do my best to figure out what I couldn't do. Okay, I can't look at this page. Jonathan can look at this page. Then I'd go to my space admin and I'd very clearly just explain, I need this page for these reasons. Jonathan can see it. Can you please help me out? And I say be gentle with your space admins because many of them might be like you and they don't have training. They've just been given this access and they're expected to know. And that can be frustrating. If you are a space admin, that course that I linked and the one that's right under my head also includes what to do if you're a space admin. So again, it's intended as a total resource for beginners. I won't talk too much about groups. So I've mentioned this term restriction and this other term permission. These are two separate things that control access to what you're looking at. Now, both of them are scoped to a space. And what I mean by that is the permissions in a space are unique to that space. They can differ from every other space. They can be similar. But whatever your space admin sets up only impacts that space. And space admins can control those. Now, restrictions apply to a piece of content. So this is important when we go look up help or talk to someone. Permissions are at the space, restrictions are at the content. So the individual page or the individual whiteboard. There are 3 layers of restriction. There is no restriction at all. Everyone can see it, and if you can edit content, you can edit it. There's view access. You can view it, but can't edit it. And then there's edit only. Oh, I lied. There's view only. You can view but can't edit. And then there's view and edit. So depending on the restriction, you'll be able to do different things. I forget if I have a slide. The default is to be open. So please keep in mind when you make new content in a space, by default, anyone who can see the space can see the content. And this is important to remember about Confluence. It is open. It is intended to be accessible. Folks are intended to be able to access and add and modify things. This can be frustrating, especially if you don't realize that thing you just made is now visible to everyone in the space. So take some time to consider when you're creating something, hey, should this be visible by everyone in the company, for example, or should I restrict it in some way? Only some people can view or only some people can edit. And it looks like not a lot of us are confident in our understanding of Confluence access, which is completely fair. I wrote entire trainings on Confluence access just because I was confused by them. And that reminds me, I should probably host another one of those trainings. So that's kind of the more mechanical, technical things. And again, we'll see all these hands-on in a moment. But I've mentioned Confluence as a collaboration platform. And so I'm curious if folks are comfortable dropping in the chat just how you collaborate during meetings. And this is important because many of our teams now are virtual. We're spread out all over the world. And we have to figure out, how do I collaborate with Beth, wherever Beth is in the world? Or how do I collaborate with Donna? One way Confluence supports this is collaboration. And actually, maybe I will put a poll just to make it easier for folks to engage. Trying to think of a good question here. Favorite way to collaborate? I'll put in just examples of pumpkin pie like that. I instantly heard whatever song that is. Stop, collaborate, and listen. Ding, ding, whatever that bass line is. I don't know where that came from in my mind, but thank you for that. Comment, sharing. So I just put 4 Confluence features that support collaboration. I love some of these answers. Teams, so live video, awesome. Tarsha uses WebEx. I used to use WebEx a lot, and then I started working at companies that only use Zoom. So I haven't thought about WebEx in a while. Yes, thank you, pumpkin pie. That's going to be in my head all day, my friend. All right. Thank you for the laugh. So Confluence is a collaboration platform, and this is something I forget a lot. It is intended to make it easy for people to collaborate and work together. And we're starting to see a lot more features around this. The stereotypical one is a comment. And you can leave comments in different pieces of content. You can @mention people. The ads are on. Thank you, Beth. Beth, thank you for calling that out. And a reminder to folks, give me feedback as we go. If something bugs you about this, or if I can do something better, or if there's a topic you want. I'm still, again, I've transitioned to being a full-time content creator. I'm still learning some of the basics like what Beth mentioned. I think I got rid of those ads, Beth. Or at least stop them for now. Comments we can place in many places on a page. It can be on a particular word or phrase. It could be on the whole page. On a whiteboard, it can be on a sticky note or something. On a database, it can be on a record. There's also collaborative editing. There's a few ways we can all jump in and edit a document together. And I'll see if I can get this set up when we go live in a few minutes. But on a page, you can share the edit link. Just grab the URL. And if someone has edit access, they can come in and work with you, which is pretty neat. You can have up to 10 people working on the same document before it's published. Even better, there's a content type now called Live Docs that everyone can work on together, say during a meeting, and it's instantly available and published. So there's different ways we can work together to build things. @mentioning is important. This is similar to other systems. @mention a name, that sends them a notification, and they'll get like an email or a bell icon pop up. A great way to remind folks, even to remind yourself about things you might forget. And I drive people nuts with comments. Just because I'll go in and say, hey, I think this is incorrect, or oops, it looks like there's a typo, I'll fix it for you. Or I'll just put reminders for myself. It might not be the best way to leave a reminder for myself, but in the moment, I drop it in and I'll come back later and copy it or address it. Okay, those are all the slides. Sorry if that was a lot of talking. We have a quick scenario. We're brand new at JQuil Industries. JQuil is my made-up word. It stands for Jira Query Language, JQL. So if you see that word, just know it's fake. I made it up. We've been told we have to document our onboarding, and all we've been told is how to log in. So this mirrors my experience with Confluence. And it looks like sharing is the #1 poll response. All right. I will put one more poll that I completely forgot to ask. And maybe I did, and folks can help jog my memory. But curious how much training folks actually have. And again, I'm just curious because I had absolutely none. And my reminder to teleport into Confluence. Also, a reminder to all of y'all, please take a minute, hit the like button on the video. It's the easiest way to support me. We've got 30 folks and 11 likes. That's amazing. And also, I'll drop that link again. This link is what I'm calling your complete guide to Confluence. It covers all the basic stuff, everything we're talking about here and a heck of a lot more. It also digs into the space admin side, so you'll understand how to manage and maintain a space. So it's like 4.5 hours and a bunch of other stuff. But what we're looking at is Confluence. Now, this screen may look different to you if you used Confluence more than about 3 months ago, because the UI, the user interface, was updated. On the left are all my navigation options. So I'll quickly go through these. I won't dig too much into each, but you'll usually end up on the For You page, which will show you things you were working on last. This is really useful because I forget what I was doing last week or yesterday or after vacation. This will just help me remember, oh, right, I was working on engineering support. There's also a Recents tab. And this one I would have loved to have known about because this also keeps track of where you've been. And you can search through this. So I can filter through all of this stuff to figure out what I owned, what I've worked on or collaborated. The biggest challenge with Confluence is just finding something. And this keeps track of where I have been. So this makes it easier for me to remember what I was doing or to find that really important thing that I forget about. One thing I will mention about this navigation is you can modify it. If you click on More, you can customize it. and this is pretty new, but I really like this. If I don't use apps, I just drag it below the line and it disappears. It's not deleted. You can get back to it by clicking on more. But it helps clean up my visual space. It makes it easier for me to use Confluence because I'm not staring at all this stuff that is meaningless. Now, there are some tricks to navigating Confluence. The first are hotkeys. If you hit the Shift ? Button or the Shift /, you'll see these shortcuts. I call them hotkeys. You don't have to memorize these, but I use these a lot because they help me use the system without moving my mouse. That sounds really lazy, and that's because it is. But there are some that I just have in my head. E will help me edit something. I can create a page with Control-Option-C. I'm on a Mac. It might be Control-Alt on a Windows machine. I can go to the home page, Control-Option-H. So as I use Confluence, I start to learn some of these. If they really annoy you, you can turn them off. I don't recommend folks turn them off unless you constantly trip over them and they cause a problem, just because they are so useful. They make it very easy to use the system, especially if you're in here a lot. The other thing I'll point out right here is this search bar right at the top. Now, this search bar will dig through Confluence just for keywords. So if I'm looking for JQuil, that word that I made up, and hit enter, I'll get a list of every piece of content that references it. If I don't hit enter, you'll see it just gives me a list, which I can filter through. So this makes it very easy for me to find things. When I, again, was told how to use Confluence, no one showed me there was a search bar. It's a very simple thing, but if you don't know what's there, it's not there. Great question, Beth. The shortcut key to open search is the /. It's the button to the on the right side of my keyboard next to the Shift button, if that helps. It's also the ? Key. You can also just click in the search bar. It's almost always visible. So they don't hide this top part very much. So / will bring this up. You can just type something in and hit enter, and that will take you to this search. Another important thing, not what I wanted to go to, this little help icon, it's help. It will pull up documentation either around what you're on or just recent updates. But if you're ever confused or lost or don't know what's going on, hit that help button and it might have something useful. It's also a great way to expose yourself to more ideas or concepts within Confluence, things you might not know already. And it's always up there in the top right. And the bell icon is my notifications. So this is anywhere I've been mentioned, or if I'm watching a page, which I haven't really spoken about. But let's say you don't want, let's say you want to get updates whenever a page has been modified or changed. You can watch it, and your account will get a little notification update every time there's a change to it. So this is the general user interface. There is a special type of page called the Company Hub, which, depending on the tier, I haven't talked about tiers. I am remiss. I apologize. There are different tiers or levels of Confluence Cloud. So right now we're in Confluence Cloud Premium, and that means I have certain features that Confluence Free doesn't, or Confluence Standard doesn't. Some of those features that we have in Premium, and you pay more for Premium, are things like artificial intelligence, so AI. Another thing we have in Premium is this thing called the Company Hub. This is a single universal page that everyone in an organization can view. So as someone who's just learning Confluence, if your company has this, it's a great place to go because it will help direct you to other areas. Many groups I work with use this for, human resources will put important information about upcoming events. There's a performance cycle in 3 weeks. Talk to your manager. There's a company party, whatever the updates are. This Company Hub just lives on the left. Right here, it's called JQuil homepage. It can have a different name, but if your organization has it, it's a great single resource. All right, I've mentioned spaces quite a bit. They live under the Spaces menu, and we can see there are a lot of spaces. And this is where it can be frustrating. I'll click on View All Spaces, and this is another instance of information overload. And as a new person, you can see how many, and this isn't really a lot. It's not uncommon to have hundreds, if not thousands, depending on the size of your organization. Again, think of rooms in a library. Over time, more and more spaces will be added. In here, I can see a mix of types of spaces. I've got one here called the people team space. So this is a space for a team, and they probably put all their information in here. Here's one for a project. This one is named after a person. And so this is a personal space. Most groups I work with turn these on, and it's a great place to go just play around with Confluence. It's intended to be your place to go and just mess around. I use my personal space to draft documents. So if I'm not ready to publish them for everyone, I use it to keep my own notes or my own projects or ideas, and I use it to just experiment and play around. You will also notice there are these little stars on some of these. Starring is like bookmarking. You'll see this star icon show up in a lot of places. On this screen, I can star a space over here on the right. Just by clicking the star, I can also watch the space. I don't recommend watching a space because that will subscribe you to updates on everything in the space. And this can be dangerous because if there's a lot of updates, your inbox is just going to expand. So typically I don't watch a space. I will star a space, and that makes it easier to find. You'll see it show up under your spaces menu at the top. So I've starred these 5 spaces because they're particularly useful. And then the ones I've recently been on are recorded here. To access the space, I just need to click on it to open it up. And that will bring me to the space homepage. This starts as a templated default. And so when you're using Confluence and you notice a homepage that looks like this, and by this I mean it looks like no one has updated it, take a minute to see if you can improve it. Or if it's your space, talk to your team about putting useful information here. Because this is the first place someone goes when they look at this space. If I'm a new hire to Beth's team and I come here and I see this is not very helpful. None of this information helps me understand what should I be doing, or where do I go to for help, or what does the team even do, or how do I get there. So take some time to update this content, or if you don't feel comfortable doing it, you can select information on it and you can comment. And I get this little comment box that I can put in, and maybe I'll tag someone. Maybe Andrew's my team leader. Disappointed face. Ooh, that's harsh. And I can add a comment to that person. So that's one way of easily collaborating. And I'll encourage everyone listening to do that. When you see something that looks out of date or could be updated, go drop a comment for someone, and then they can go work on it. But this is the homepage where you first go. On the left, you'll notice there's something new in the navigation. This is the page tree or content hierarchy. I'll use those terms interchangeably. They both mean this thing. And this is the content in the space. It is also organized. In this example, it's not organized well, but you can organize this visually. So you'll notice some of these have little arrows. Those arrows mean there's content underneath this content. So it's a child page. So table of contents example is a child of the 90-day plan. The 90-day plan is a parent of the table of contents. So this is a way to visually organize the space. All the content hierarchy does is give me a way to do that visual organization. It can impact access though. For example, if company policies has a restriction that only Tarsha and I can view it, and I drag this whiteboard under it, that whiteboard will now have the same restriction. So when you're organizing the content hierarchy, just be aware where you put something can change its access. This is also a huge frustration. Someone will inadvertently move a piece of content and suddenly half their team can't see it anymore. So please take some time to understand what restrictions exist or how that is set up. Now I can see these. I'll go back to my company policies. Up in the top right, and this is something I always take a look at, I have this red lock icon, and that tells me there is a restriction. So this just visually tells me, hey Rob, this page is restricted. If I click on share, I'll then see what the restriction is. Only some people can view and edit. So right now, only me and Amanda can edit this page. So again, if I put stuff under this, that same restriction can get copied down. Now, making content is very straightforward. There's this big create button way up at the top. I can also click the plus icon in the content hierarchy. I like to click the plus icon because that makes the content under whatever I clicked on. For example, if I want to make something under example whiteboard, I can click this plus, and then I'll select what I want to make. I'll make a live doc because I want to try something with this group and just see if it works. But I could make a page or a whiteboard, other bits of content. I have other specific trainings on these different content types. My goal today is to make sure we know how to do pages and live docs. They're very, very similar. What I'm going to do is flip on what's called a public link. And I'm going to put this link in our chat, and anyone who's listening who clicks on this link will jump into this page with me. So this is one way to share Confluence outside of my team. So if I click on this, I'll see what it looks like. And this is what all of you will see if you do this. Oops, something very similar. I meant to do this. You should see a screen similar to this. And this is the public doc. Now, I haven't done this one live. I'm hoping you will be able to edit it, which might not be what's happening, because I honestly haven't used public links all that much. If I click on opening Confluence, oh, that might not work. Nuts. Well, this won't be as fun as I hoped it would be. I have another example I can try in a moment. This is basically a page, though. A live doc is similar to a page. It's just instantly published. What's important here, though, are these templates. Down at the bottom, I'll get this little list of a few templates, and you'll notice as I mouse over them, it's showing me what the template looks like. So these are some of the 144 plus templates I have. I can also click on all templates and get this sidebar to pop up. And this is a list of all, I guess, 139 templates I have access to. I'll encourage you to scroll through and look at these and just see what's in here, but I'll also encourage you just to search. So I could just type in project, and that will narrow down the list of templates that I see. This is incredibly useful and nothing anyone ever taught me. I was stuck just trying to, scroll through that giganto list, which made it very hard to find any kind of template. You'll also notice that there are categories. So if I get rid of this, I've got my templates. So you can star a template just like you can star a space or a piece of content, and that'll keep it under my templates. And you can also click on this and see a huge list of categories. So again, I'll encourage you to take a few minutes the next time you're in Confluence just to explore and see what's in there. Now, once I get to this page, or in this case, live doc, I'm going to see a bunch of editing options along the top. These will be very familiar if you're used to word processor. Biggest difference, there are no fonts and no font sizes. Instead, we have headings. And this is another very common frustration. Folks want to have a font or a font size. We don't get that. Now, there might be marketplace ads. Unable to type and edit. Beatrice, thank you. Thank you for experimenting with me, by the way. What I'll do is I'll show a whiteboard, which I can share, and we can all go in and play in the whiteboard in just a minute, just to show a different way to collaborate. But thank you for clarifying and confirming that. I think I know why, and I think I can set this up better next time. Thank you, Beatrice. I appreciate it. Now, in here, I can just start typing, whatever content I need, and I can use these text styles, not textiles like fabric, to make fonts different sizes. The other important thing about these are hyperlinks. So this is a very useful trick. If I copy this link and send it to someone, they'll go right to this header. So they'll go exactly where I send them. It also works with some macros, which if I do a /, I'll get this menu of things. I can also get to it with the plus icon at the top. I am displeased with my YouTube overlords. Thank you. Thank you for telling me, Beatrice. I'm annoyed. I get that there's ads. I'm annoyed that the audio takes over me. I would have hoped they start muted at least. Anyway, I will get off the little soapbox and get back to Confluence. So I can type in this /, and these are all, they call them macros or elements, things I can add to the page. For example, I can add a little status panel just to add some visual pop. I can add a bigger informational panel. There's a whole bunch of different macros or elements. I have a lot of YouTube videos on different macros. There's a ton of them, but they are very useful ways to expand what's on your page. And I'm quickly going to see if I can just get a list from Confluence of what all their macros are and share it with y'all. Similar to, yes, here we go. Similar to templates, please take a look just at this list. Trisha, I didn't realize that that would happen until I said it, and then I tripped over my words. Textiles. This link goes to Atlassian's documentation on macros. It can be a bit dense, but about halfway down, you're going to see a list of hyperlinks. Macros available in the editor. All of these are the macros you'll get out of the box. And you can see there's a ton of them. I use maybe a half dozen on a regular basis, and I just have those memorized. And then I know how to get others by clicking on this plus and then just browsing. Now, one thing to know is these macros also let you connect to Jira. So if your team uses Jira for project management or development, you can link in Jira work items in Confluence with a macro. So keep that in your back pocket if you happen to use Jira with this. Other editing options, bolding, italicize, formatting text. I can make the text a color or highlight it, add a list, indent, all that good stuff. And then I can do things like add attachments. So I can insert files or images if I need to. That's a page. I'm going to quickly jump over and make what's called a whiteboard just to show this collaboration because it's kind of fun to get people involved. Oh, what did we miss, Kari? I'll back up to the list of macros. This is that link that I just posted. It's over here. And about halfway down under macros available in the editor, this is the list of all the macros you have. And then when you open these up, it'll give you more information about that specific macro. So this can feel a bit technical. If you're struggling to understand this, please feel free to contact me on LinkedIn, jump into Discord, which is a chat platform I'm using. That's this link, and feel free to ask and we can help you out. But that link is a great resource for how do these macros work and what options do I have. You may have more macros if you have what's called a marketplace app. So it's possible your company has an extension or an add-on to Confluence that gives it more features, more things. All right, folks, I think this link, the link that I just put, should give you edit access to this whiteboard, it's called. And again, I'm just doing this to show ways to collaborate, which is an important concept. And whiteboards are a way to visually organize information. So in the whiteboard, I can have these things called sticky notes, where I might have ideas, stop all YouTube ads, or things to remind myself. I might have different shapes that represent parts of a process. And I use this for building like process diagrams, some kind of step in the middle. Oh, and I can see Melissa's right there. Hi, Melissa. Oh, someone else popped in. So this, personally, I like a physical whiteboard, or I like to work with someone together on a document. But again, many times we can't. We have people all over the world. An anonymous butterfly likes the blue one. Love it. Anonymous candy, okay? I always get a kick out of the things that happen. I have entire trainings on whiteboards, so I won't dig too much into them other than to say this is a great feature and a great way to collaborate live. And you can do similar things in a doc. So in a page, you can type and work on that page to manage and manipulate information. This is also a good example of Confluence adding more features. Whiteboards replaced my need to have Lucid Chart. And, oh, hey, Pumpkin Pie, you're Melissa. Because I didn't have access to a diagramming software. I had to go get a license, and then they took the license away. So Confluence saved me that cost, but also this helps me keep all my information everywhere. Who thinks this is chaotic, having, 9 people randomly run around in a document with no instructions? Now, one other thing to notice is the way I shared this, you only have access to this whiteboard. You don't also get access to all the other content. So that's something to consider as you're using Confluence. There's different ways you can share information. Again, in this example, we would all be on the same team working on something, and I'm very curious to see what we all work on. I'll leave this link open through the end of the training. I'm going to take my focus away. Maybe I'll give this a name here. AUG 28th Confluence for Beginners. It's the 26th, isn't it? AUG 26 Confluence for Beginners. There we go. Um, How do you pull the font forward? We should be able to right click on something, come back, and bring to front or send to back. So command bracket or other command bracket. Now, there are templates in whiteboards. I mentioned at the start of this, when I say templates in this training, I'm mainly talking about page templates. But if I make a new whiteboard, when I first create it, this screen pops up. And there are a number of, oh good, they've added a lot of different templates in here. I use these as starting points. The nice thing about these templates, though, is Atlassian has provided guidance on how to use them. So here is the template, but on the left-hand side, what I'll see, and I'll see if I can zoom in more for y'all. You know, helpful shortcuts, how to move around, stamps in a timer, and then information about what I should be doing. So a lot of the whiteboard templates have this, like a structure to help you figure out what to do, and then also guidance on how to use it. Just like the page templates, I suggest taking time to explore the whiteboard templates. Whiteboards exist in every tier of Confluence. At the lower tiers, you might be restricted to how many you can make. So in the free tier, you can have up to 3 per person. At higher tiers, it's not limited though. So just keep in mind if you're at a lower tier in that sense, you might not have as many. I'm going to look at this whiteboard one more time. Oh, wow. Whoever put this in, thank you for getting around this limitation. I'm just chuckling. You can't put a YouTube comment, so you put one directly in the whiteboard. All right, folks. I think I've got one or two more slides to talk about. That's not the one I want to talk about. Tips and next steps. Please like the video. That's a great tip. That helps other people find this. It also lets me know that this is content you're interested in. But please review this recording. This will live on YouTube, and I have a lot of other content. I dig into whiteboards and databases and permissions and a whole bunch of other stuff. What we covered is just enough to get you started. It's, you know, not quite a sample. It's a little bit more, but it's something helpful and useful to all of you. Now, check out other people's content as well. Very important to get different perspective and talk to different folks around everything. Because different people will use the tool differently and have different ways of learning. I'm going to drop a link to that Confluence course again in there. Again, this is paid. If you have any kind of financial hardship, please reach out to me. My email's right there, robert@heen.tech. I also do group trainings, one-on-one trainings, that kind of thing if you'd like that. And another great way to get support is join us in Discord. Again, this is a chat platform. You might have to use a personal email if your work doesn't allow it. But about 200 folks who have, you know, used different aspects of Atlassian technology, work in different fields, just sharing ideas on how to use the system, asking questions, and getting help. So that's another way to continue your learning journey. But I do want to thank you all for learning with me, and I want to see what other questions you have. I've got a few more minutes before I've got to jump off, but please drop questions in the chat just so I know, and I'll see if I can come up with a last poll question to ask while I take a sip of coffee and you all hit the like button. What's a good last question? I guess this is a good question. Did you learn something new? If you did, what was it? And if you didn't, what were you hoping to get? Oh, that's exciting. And while you're thinking about that question, what Trish is referring to is this button down here. So one aspect of whiteboards is it can connect to Jira. I find it interesting, Trish, and this would be something I'll see if I can test outside of a live learning. Please don't link anything that's sensitive. What we're seeing are joke, fake, tickets. You can insert work items directly into a whiteboard for planning. Atlassian should respect permissions. So if you don't have permission to the work item, you shouldn't have it here. I haven't had an instance, Trisha, yet where someone outside of my organization has been in the whiteboard. I will see if I can run that down, though, because that doesn't seem correct to be able to do that. Let me make it. Where can I make a note very quickly? I will do it here. But thank you for pointing that out. Query restrictions and permissions, again, one of the most confusing things. I've got a training somewhere in here that'll help. Tarsha, I'm glad you found that useful. We're just scratching the surface. I've got an entire hour training I do just on templates. And Trisha, I will follow up with testing on anonymous users sharing Jira work items in a whiteboard. And I'll also go tag folks I know at Atlassian and see, hey, how is that possible? Can't share with a vendor. Beth, could you expand on that a bit just so I have more context if you're okay with that? All right, folks. Again, I want to thank you all for joining me in learning. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with this. I hope you all learned something. Definitely join us in Discord if you can. Check out content. Take a look at my course. I have a lot of other courses on this platform. And I'll share one more link to the learning platform. That link goes to the learning platform with different courses. So that's just a full menu of things. Yes, Beatrice, there is a difference. Confluence is the collaboration knowledge. Jira is the work tracking. And that's the easiest, like, bright line distinction I have. However, they both integrate. So you'll see Confluence pages on Jira work items and Jira work items showing up in Confluence whiteboards and all kinds of other things. And I'm glad you got a better understanding of that. All right, folks, thank you again for learning with me. I'm doing a lot of live streaming 4 days a week. So be on the lookout for more topics. I will be publishing a content calendar on LinkedIn and through Discord and on my YouTube channel. So be on the lookout for a preview of what's coming up in September. But thank you for learning with me. I really appreciate you making time. If you haven't, please like the video, check out the links, and I hope to see you all again very soon in a training.